just want to share one of the most embarrassing job interviews I've ever had. I was in between jobs, and in the UK we have what we call local lawyers. So in between jobs, you can still work for other companies and firms as a freelancer. So I got this interview, and I was revising the whole night because typically when I was in corporate world, I used to prepare certain questions that I predict that the company or organization will ask me, and I have my answers ready. So I was all prepared, well geared up for this interview. In the morning, guess what? Everything starts to go wrong. The train is late, so I start to get very flustered and agitated. I get to London, and typically, for those of you who have been in London, when you catch what we call our equivalent of the metro, there's always a problem, engineering problem. So you get stuck in a tunnel, and I know I'm going to be a little bit late. So I managed to get to the venue, but before I get there, I called the company, organization. It was a government organization, and I told them, look, I'm going to be a little bit late. I got to the interview, and the order of questions that I thought typically I'll be asked, it wasn't like that at all, because this is government local authority. So I got to the middle of the interview, and halfway through it, there were some questions I couldn't answer because I wasn't expecting to be asked these questions. So I just said, no, I don't know. Now, during the interview, it was a male interviewing me, and he kept looking into my eyes and down, into my eyes and down, and I thought, well, this guy is just white. That's a bit odd, because typically they look straight at you. I thought, this is odd. Anyway, after the interview, guess what? I realized that in all the rush to get ready for this interview, and the whole day going so bad, I was wearing a trouser suit, and unfortunately, I had not. I had my flights were open basically. I thought, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. I am not going to get this job. And guess what? I did not get the job. What the hell? It's not the end of the world. It was so embarrassing. I still remember it up to today. So now, regardless of where I'm going, if I go to the washroom, I'm leaving home, I make sure my flies and my trousers I couldn't bear such an embarrassment again, so that's my story.
In Australia, we call that advertising.
If I were to be invisible for a day, I think I'll probably want to be like a bird.
A bird?
I want to be like a bird, flying all over the place. Because I've always liked flying. I think the best part for me is takeoff. I get so thrilled.
Take off.
I get so thrilled when the plane takes off. That is the best part for me. It doesn't matter how tired I am, I make sure I'm awake for that. So I like to be a bird taking off and seeing the world and floating all over the place, because I think it must be quite exciting being a bird. You can go any place, you can see different countries. So that is what I like to do. I like to be a bird, and I like to fly to countries that I've never seen before. All the countries, particularly on my bucket list, that I always say every year I like to visit, but because of work or for whatever reason, it just doesn't happen. I like to be like a bird, just take off, and then come back at night and back to my bird.
Okay, but now this is a different story of being a bird and being invisible. So picture yourself not being visible. Would you go to different places? Would you go and sneak into a meeting, or what would you do?
If I were to be invisible, I would like to be also, apart from a bird, flying to see other parts of the world. I like to be a fly in some of the important government meetings to see what they are talking about the future, or what's going to happen to the expats, and all these new policies that they're coming up with. Are they realistic, or are they just being catered to people who have lots of money in the country? What's going to happen to us after Expo 2020? Because that's what everybody talks about, because of the way things are going. People are wondering whether it's actually going to happen. What is Dubai going to be like after Expo 2020? Are we all going to be packing up our bags and going home, or are we going to stay here? So I'd like to be a fly on the wall, very visible, listen to what all these politicians are saying about our future, and keep that to myself, and anyone that needs to know
I
about it,
keep
you have
that to myself.
I keep that to myself, and anyone that needs to know about it, being a lawyer, you'll have to pay me lots of money to get this information. So that's
Okay.
it.
Great, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Oh, sorry, I just realized it is here, right?
Yeah. Yes, you can switch it off actually.
No problem. All the
Impacts of incentives on employee performance. I think it's very important in the UAE to have good incentives to enhance employee performance, because the UAE has been such that even in my days in the corporate world, employees have never been loyal. You know, after 2 years, they're always looking for the next best package. They want to move into greener pastures. So it's good to have very good incentives to increase the loyalty of your employees as well as their performance. I've got 4 that I'd like to talk about. The first one is the bonus. If the company can afford it, it's good to have a bonus as a way of rewarding your employees, because it makes them feel valued. It increases their performance and competitiveness between themselves. I remember my days as an in-house counsel at Enoch. You know, every year we knew what the maximum bonus we could get for being the best lawyer in the team, because that's how we were assessed. So we'll work towards it. We'll be very competitive. We wanted to be the best lawyer in the eyes of the boss. And of course, the way that we were assessed every year, our appraisals were based on the feedback from the business managers and so on. And based on that, you would get your relevant bonus. So it's good to have bonuses if a company can afford it, to make your employees perform better. The next one is team events as well as entertainment. Now, when you're in a work environment and in an office, sometimes you don't get to know what your colleagues really like. And by having team events outside the work environment, it helps to break the ice. It breaks down the politics, it minimizes the politics, and you get to know each other better. And of course, it creates a much healthier environment. I remember one particular company that I worked for, Electricity France in the UK. I was an in-house lawyer there. Up till today, I remember it as being the best employer I've ever had. Because what they did is they had a budget to entertain the lawyers. We had VIP treatment. We felt almost like Hollywood stars. Every year, they would fly us to somewhere in Europe or somewhere within the country, just to mix with other lawyers or other lawyers within the group in Europe. We also had a head of legal who liked to party. So what he used to do, and I've never come across this in any company that I've worked for when I was in the corporate world, he used to go partying with even the trainee lawyers. He used to go pub crawling. He loved to drink a little bit. So he would go pub crawling with the trainee lawyers. And he would even go to discos. Now, he had a funny dance where you couldn't laugh at this dance because he's the head of the legal department. He could fire you at any time. But he'd go to discos with these guys. And it got to a stage where we all felt like being part of a big family. I always look forward to going to work because it felt like I'm going to my second family. There was very little politics in the team, and it was a very good work environment to have. The next incentive that I think a company or a business should have is to give its managers a sense of responsibility and leadership. Sense of responsibility, leadership, and ownership. Because by doing that, you're pruning them to be the next leaders in your business. I have a client at the moment. He's a self-made millionaire, but I've actually heard he's a billionaire. He's only 34 years old. He's one of those, school dropouts, but he's where he is now. And he has this model in his business whereby each manager is made an owner of that particular sector of the business. And he doesn't have a sales team. They're responsible for bringing up the business, for developing that sector of the business. And if they can't do it, they're out. So what he's doing, in a way, is to create them to become entrepreneurs just like himself. They're employees, but he's teaching them their entrepreneurship skills so that they can lead the business someday when he's hopefully not around someday. I mean, he could be move on to something else, or maybe, God forbid, he passes away, but that's what he's created, so that's very good to have. The last incentive I think a business should have is training. Because why do we actually move from one organization to the next, apart from the good packages that we're going to have? We want to learn something. That's why we move. We want to improve our knowledge. So I think it's very good for a business to actually invest in training courses whereby you're continuously improving the knowledge of your teams. It creates loyalty. It helps your teams to stay with you longer because they're always learning. And it creates loyalty as well. So I think those are the 4 that I have at the moment in a short space of time I have. It's bonuses, it's having team events, creating ownership and responsibility. Some companies will actually give shares. They allot 7% of shares, company shares to employees so that they have some sense of ownership of the organization. And then lastly is training. But I have to think about this on top of my head because I haven't been in the corporate world for quite some time, so I hope I've done well.
Great, thank you.